Welcome back to Convergence Knowledge Bytes, where we take complex business topics and break them down into bite-sized chunks for business leaders and owners to make better informed decisions about how to move their companies forward. We're back with episode 2. We got Mr. Howard Gordon in the hot seat. Uh, Happy to share and talk a little bit more about Bluewave network connectivity and telephony. And in this episode, we're excited to talk a little bit more about why an organization will work with Bluewave. When we talked the first episode, we were talking about how it kind of takes a lot of the noise out of the experience of sort of making these decisions, making these changes for an organization. But Howard, can you expand on a little bit more about like why a business should choose to work with Bluewave versus other network service providers, or, tackling the 4 that they, might want to work with on their own?
Sure. Yeah. So, Bluewave, because of our ability to represent, hundreds of providers, we have the ability to be brand agnostic. So, whereas if you call Comcast or CenturyLink, they're going to be pitching what they have. In our case, I have the ability to look through the entire gamut of providers to see what's the best fit from a price position, from a bandwidth position, from a feature perspective. So we're looking at what's best for the client. Our team, of course, will help oversee the implementation, provide post-sale support, and then even as we get close to contract expiration, we're renegotiating on the client's behalf to either save money or increase throughput or move you again. So when you buy from the traditional carrier, they want to keep that price going indefinitely. Well, that's not our approach. We want to have a long-term relationship, hence the reason I've worked with Jack so long. We want to keep the service with us, based on what's right for the client.
Yeah, you make it hard to get rid of you, Howard. I'm telling you. I'm just kidding. But
Yeah.
I do, one of the things I really appreciate, and something that we do too, is we try to assess the need of the organization first, right? Like what exactly what are we trying to solve, or what is really making your business operate effectively? And where are you at? Is there a gap? Is there something we need to, I really appreciate that. Right. And, but when those types of things lead into various different pieces. So how does that play into maybe some unique advantages, of Bluewave in terms of the customer support or service delivery? Like, how does that produce the outcome into that experience as a customer?
Yeah, good question. So, part of what Bluewave offers, which is different than my legacy company, is that we have dedicated engineers. So we're not having to necessarily rely on a carrier's engineering team. We have our own resources to work and evaluate what the customer's true needs are and not feel pigeonholed to sell a certain player.
Right.
So that's key. And then in addition, we have a dedicated group of project managers and support people around the country. So, we've got a lot of resources. So we're not just throwing you into an automated attendant and getting voicemail. We're actually able to jump in, especially if there's a down condition. We take that seriously. If your service is down, then it's costing you money, and that's not what we want. So we're opening trouble tickets, we're handling billing disputes, and it's all a white glove experience. So, and then of course, working on renewals. If we're saving clients money, and that seems to be an important driver in today's society.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more of that, like pricing and terms, negotiation. How does that work? I mean, are you shopping it again? Are you really just kind of, using your leverage as a large national relationship, international? How does that work in the customer's favor?
Well, yeah, we have the ability to engage a lot of providers. If the client has a preference, maybe they've had a bad experience with a provider, we can go ahead and take that information and try to leverage with these providers to get the best bang for our buck. We've been known to compete, put the other providers competing against each other. We want to make sure also that from a product set that it's fitting your needs. So if one provider is on net, going back to our internet requirements, if we find that someone has fiber, maybe we'll go ahead and try to leverage what they can offer for the client's needs.
Okay. Um, so service oversight from start to finish, right? Literally from the day the contract is signed all the way through implementation, terms and negotiation capabilities to make sure that the customer's making the appropriate investment and managing expenses. What about other things, maybe around expense like audits or contract management, invoicing, those sorts of things? How does that work?
So part of our philosophy is when we're meeting the client, we're getting copies of their bills, we're auditing what they have today and listening to what the requirements are. At
Okay.
that point, the client still signed the contract with the phone company. We're the liaison. Okay. So at
Hmm.
that then we're assisting with the implementation. And once the service is installed, part of our philosophy is we want to see that first bill, making
Oh, good.
that you were comparing it to what the contracted rates are, making sure you're getting what you paid for. How
Cool.
many times have you seen phone companies throw things in that you didn't order? And we make sure that doesn't happen. Uh,
Nice.
and then again, as I explained earlier, once we get close to contract end, we're looking at the bills again. We're bringing in alternative carriers, or we renegotiate it with the existing carrier to lower that price. Once the renewal is submitted, we get another bill, making sure you're getting what you're owed.
What if I'm a client that has 5 or 6 locations throughout the country and they're not all on the same carrier? How can Bluewave help with managing my invoices and things like that? Do you have a third party service that can help?
We do. We have companies that handle that. They're known as TEM or Telecom Expense Management,
Okay.
where they can get all of the services under their portfolio. They'll do the billing. It's a single point of contact where you can pay them, where
Hmm,
we're also supporting that sent service. If
nice.
that is an added service to be added to an account. So if you prefer just to have us manage the account, you're still paying the bills, but we're your advocate. We know every location that you have, every static IP. I know every telecom service. So within our Salesforce database, I can open tickets and monitor that service to keep, uptime as high as possible.
Oh, that's great. So that's a pretty holistic approach to managing the internet service relationship, and the with the various carriers that could be involved. I want to take the opportunity to kind of hear some cool stories. This is one of my favorite parts of having partners such as yourself. And can you take a couple minutes and share a couple of success stories, like what some of the challenges were, and then what were the positive outcomes for the customers? And not to, like call out their names or whatever, but help explain the scenario that your team worked through to benefit the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what I love about our business is helping the client.
Yeah.
We have a mutual client that we worked with Convergence on. We got brought in with the initiative of, they were going into the cloud. They needed more internet connectivity across their 4 or 5 locations on the East and West Coast.
Hmm.
And at the same time, they were grossly overpaying at a few locations. So once I gathered all of the bills and then heard from your team, Jack, as well as the client about, the initiatives and what they were heading towards, we made a recommendation based on increasing internet across their sites. In some cases, replacing the existing carrier with the same carrier but a different product set. 5 times the internet multiplier in several of these locations, and then saving 25% across all their sites. My team oversaw those implementations, and worked with Convergence to make sure that they went smoothly. And then post sale, we've audited their bills and they're seeing the savings. So
That's great.
it's a win-win for the client, of course, for Convergence, because they can solve the client's needs with some of the cloud projects they have, and then us getting a new client.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty awesome the story. And I know that client from now. I know that you're talking about. And it was pretty cool for them to see that they could actually get a better product, better bandwidth, upload time, moving to the cloud, really critical, right? And we were able to sort of figure out how to solve that across their 4 locations, Pacific Northwest, and then over on the East Coast. That was, that was a great outcome and a great experience. What else? What's another interesting? Any really big numbers out there that you kind of were able to come in and, it's like, wow, that's bananas. How are you all paying that much?
Yeah, in a multi-site space, inevitably sometimes the accounting and the IT groups are, on different islands. So
Sure.
whereas, IT may go ahead and work with us to renew their locations, that doesn't always get to accounting. And
Mhm.
inevitably the phone company as well doesn't always track those things. So we have a client signed a large renewal with a carrier, and the bills that was being sent to accounting weren't taking the renewal into effect. Uh,
Oh,
my team caught it. We ended up bringing that up with CenturyLink in this case, and got
mm,
a very large check back. Um,
yeah,
and then, of course, all phone companies can have outages. That's the nature of our business, and we're the
yeah.
advocate. We have a large cloud phone provider that had a recent outage, and we ended up going through our entire client base that had that carrier and getting each of them credits based on that outage. So,
Wow.
we're your advocate. We want to make sure that we follow our motto, assess, advise, and then advocate. And
Yeah.
we'll do.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I'm a nerdy numbers guy. So you said you got a very large check. Can I ask round numbers? Was it more than 10 grand?
Yes.
Was it more than 15?
Yes.
Was it more than 20?
Very close. And keep in
That's
mind
a
that,
that's a
yeah,
huge pullback though for a business, right? I mean, it's meaningful revenue back into the business that they didn't even realize was going out the door, right? So
and
yeah,
this was also part of the former company's role. So, we were now auditing that. We probably wouldn't let that happen going forward with
yeah,
Bluewave, but nonetheless, we're
hmm
trying to help bridge the gap between the IT team and management and billing. And
Well, it's a great example though. You bring that up, like how accounting and or billing, or sometimes the leaders and organizations that are part of signing the internet service contracts are like, this is a wonderful deal. We're going to get so much more bandwidth. And then as the internet managed service provider, nobody tells us. And guess what? The firewall has no capacity to give them that bandwidth.
right,
They didn't think about the equipment piece that's in the middle. The modem is handling it, but the firewall has a restricted throughput capabilities, right? And so both the left hand and the right hand have to talk when it comes to technology, because today, you know, internet's critical to run a business. Whether you have people working from home, people working from an office, people working from their mobile phone in an airport or wherever they are, internet is critical to accomplish day-to-day tasks in operating and running a company. And without them talking together, it's crazy to me sometimes. We had a client that had upgraded their internet service and was complaining for probably 6 or 7 months that it didn't seem like it improved anything. And we're trying to understand, like, what do you mean the internet's not working? They failed to let us know that they had signed a new plan, and it didn't account for having a firewall that was capable of doing that. And their firewall was only 8 months old. Like, they tried to do them at the same time, but they didn't inform us that they were changing their bandwidth with their internet service. So working together and collaborating and having that relationship with you as well has saved us and our customers from making mistakes that would have to be undone. What you don't want to do is buy a firewall and then have to buy another one 6 months, 12 months later. Those can last for many, many years,
yeah,
right?
it's
So
important to keep
sizing it.
yeah, it's important to keep the IT vendor is involved too.
Yeah, for sure.
Communication is key, and that's sort of our philosophy.
Yeah, and it's a testament as to why we have partners like you that have, been in relationships and with us for a very long time. And of course, I've been with Convergence 10 years, so you and I go way, way back, even before those days. Well, Howard, this is going to wrap up episode number 2 on breaking down internet service providers and sort of the ins and outs of Bluewave and the great service that you and your team bring to bear. Thank you, everybody, for watching and or listening to this episode of Convergence Knowledge Bytes. Take care and have a good one. Thanks.